That's what a battered wife would say. My husband's amazing, right? So this tracks, this motto ally bit.
Well, don't you hate when people say, I told you so? Yeah, that's me, actually, because I did tell you, sorry, but I told you that gold and silver were going to reap the benefits of excessive money printing, the Fed just printing money like crazy, overvalued markets, global unrest. It's here. It's happened. Gold and silver have both soared to all-time highs. So I hope you called our friends at Lear Capital and you bought some. If you didn't, trust me, it's not too late. Experts are predicting even higher prices ahead. And they get it. They know what's coming. Isn't it time, folks? Get yourself some gold and silver today. Call the best in the business. I personally use them. So does Natalie. We both do. And our kids do as well in their IRAs. Lear Capital, it's a free phone call. There's no obligation to purchase, just education information on protecting and growing your wealth with gold and silver. I'm sure there are many of you that have called and haven't purchased yet for whatever reason. Don't make the same mistake twice. Now is the time to get some gold shipped directly to you or shift some dollars in your retirement accounts over to physical gold and silver. It's easy to do. Natalie and I have done it for both, and I've been extremely satisfied with Lear's knowledge, their service, their prices. I urge you to call today and learn more. Call them, 1-800-613-3557, or go to learredacted.com, and you can receive up to $20,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase.
I'd like to move on to Cuba, talking about Cuba, because this is what President Trump said on Tuesday, kind of joking they're going to fall soon. It looks a little bit diabolical. Watch.
Well, we're going to see what happens with Cuba. I don't know. Anybody interested in Cuba in this room? Not too many people. This is not a Cuba room, but that's all right. There are plenty of them around, especially in Miami. And Cuba will be failing pretty soon. Cuba is really a nation that's very close to failing. You know, they got their money from Venezuela. They got the oil from Venezuela. They're not getting that anymore.
We were talking about the polls earlier. Clearly, you're...
Okay, what is this about? Well, obviously, Cuba is under long-standing trade embargoes, which means they have to do workarounds to get oil. Historically, Cuba has got their oil from Venezuela and Mexico. Now we cut them off from Venezuela. Now we told Mexico, you cut them off too, because we want to inflict maximum suffering on their people to erect a regime change. Now Mexico said, we're not going to do that. We do what we want. But they did that. Here's proof of that. China has condemned this action, saying that this is depriving the people of Cuba their rights to subsist and develop. Why would China care? Well, because China and Cuba are trading partners, and the U.S. sees that as broader regional contest between Washington and Beijing. So could that be the real reason that we want to harm Cuba? And I want to show you this, Scott, as well. The new Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine basically says, in this hemisphere, we do whatever the F we want. And they use the word prerogative. If we think someone's getting popular here, someone's exerting influence, we do what we want according to our prerogatives. So can you translate why we want to torture Cuba? Why are we doing this? What is in our interest?
Well, there's a couple things, but I think we need to just get down to brass tacks. Marco Rubio. Since Marco Rubio became a senator, he has been singularly focused on Cuba. His father came from Cuba, or his father or grandfather came from Cuba, a Batista man. And Rubio has, he's from that Cuban American community that, basically the only thing that gives him relevance is their insistence on, anti-communist policies, and they leverage that into, significant political power. He's now, the Secretary of State, but more importantly, he's the National Security Advisor. He's dual-hatted. That means that he doesn't just, make and implement foreign policy. He's the man responsible for coordinating foreign policy with covert policy, the CIA's activities, et cetera. But Marco Rubio is the man who gave us Venezuela, and he's the man who's focused on Cuba. He's the man who's focused on, having American domination of the entire South American continent, all of Latin America. And this is why we're singling Cuba out. Yes, we have the Trump corollary. Yes, we have the national security strategy. But the reality is we're talking about, this is Marco Rubio's pet project. This is his pathway to the presidency. This is how he sees he's going to claim the White House in 2028. This is Marco Rubio's private war. Cuba poses no threat to the United States whatsoever. And the fact that Cuba trades with China and Russia and Venezuela is primarily driven by the fact that Cuba doesn't trade with the United States, but that's not a decision Cuba makes. That's a decision the United States makes because of its sanctions. Can we collapse the Cuban economy? We've been trying for decades. Does Donald Trump have a plan that's going to work? We shall see. But I just think that Cuba's going to be a tougher nut than Donald Trump thinks it is. This is a man who continually goes for the quick kill, the cheap kill, but he's not willing to have a knockdown, drag out fight.
So if this were an SAT question, we could frame it like this: Hillary Clinton is to Libya what Marco Rubio is to Cuba, right? Cuba. So both launching wars and utter destruction on the civilian population for their own political gain.
Correct. Except I just don't think we're going to succeed in Cuba. I think Cuba has far more resilience than Libya did.
Yes, what we just ran here was the protest today against foreign intervention. This is what you're seeing. I apologize. Go ahead.
No. Look, I just, I've never been to Cuba. I can't claim to be, an expert on Cuba, but I've just studied history, and I know that from the Bay of Pigs until today, we've been trying to get rid of the Cuban government, and we haven't succeeded. So I don't know if Donald Trump and Marco Rubio have the magic solution. They talk as if they do, but I just want to point out that even after we got rid of Maduro, we don't control Venezuela.
No.
And that point should be made. Venezuela is not under our control. We can sanction Venezuela, we can blockade Venezuela, but as things stand, the Venezuelan government's still the Venezuelan government. It has been, unless the CIA has executed covert contracts with everybody and they're secretly doing the bidding, which is always a possibility. We haven't, finalized the Venezuela situation, and I think it's a little premature to assume American victory over Cuba.
The CIA, this has been like the crown jewel. They've been hoping for this for decades in Cuba. They failed at every turn, from exploding cigars to God knows what else that they've been involved with. I mean, there's like museums dedicated to their failures in Cuba. How active do you think the intelligence community is in Cuba in the way it has been so active inside of Venezuela for the last few decades?
I think it's extraordinarily active, but I also think that the points of leverage or the points of access in Cuba are not as extensive as they were in Venezuela. Venezuela has, of course, the oil business that produces oligarchs who are politically and economically influential, and the United States has been owning these people for decades, and they never really lost their place or position in Venezuela, so we were able to exploit the elites. Cuba is, communist country. And while I do believe that we have penetrated Cuba, I mean, the CIA is hard at work doing their job. I believe that the Cuban government is largely insulated from the kind of, penetration that took place in Venezuela. And I just think it's going to be a much more difficult target than Donald Trump and Marco Rubio are trying to sell to the American people.
Scott Ritter, hey, with 30 seconds left, I mean, just on the Iran question real quick to wrap it, do you think that an attack is imminent?
What odds on
it? No. And the reason why I say no is we're going to get our asses kicked. And it's obvious we're going to get our asses kicked. And I'm just convinced that somebody's going to bring this up to Trump and say, if you attack Iran, you will lose the midterms, and you will spend the second half of your administration being impeached, and you may actually get convicted, and you will go to jail. Don't do this.
Yikes. There's the personal consequence.
That's Scott's way of being half glass full.
Yes.
Yes, and
all right.
I hope you're right.
Get out of here, you optimist, you.
Yeah. Scott, thank you so much, as always. Great analysis and insight. No one I'd rather talk to on this. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for having me.